March 11th, 2024. Now, we're going to start having these open conversations about reparations because it's being debated. So it could be a debate, it could be a conversation, nobody's, every question is welcomed. Just keep it respectful and let's have the conversation because things are in disarray right now. And I'm starting to see, individuals, take sides. And we all know that a house divided won't stand. So we got to have these conversations and really know what's going on. Like reparations, repair the damages of the past, basically to make amends with what's going on. But I want to have the conversation because I would love this to somehow get into the atmosphere of an open discussion because we need to communicate. So share, like, subscribe, whether you for it, whether you're against it, what's the pros and cons. And I put it as episode 1 so we can continue to have this conversation. But I want to start the conversation, and it's morning time here on the West Coast, in a sense of all of us been in situations that we wanted to get out of. Now think of, the metaphors and think of parables. Think of, especially if you're a Christian or a religious person, the leaders, they spoke in metaphors because it's not like, we have to fight amongst each other. It's not like, we could agree to disagree, which I don't like that, but we could find a happy medium and at least understand what someone is saying. So this isn't conversation. This is a debate. Okay, we got the B.L. Glover show. We got a lot of, a Better Black America talk where we have a little fun. And, we're going to get active as the channel grows. But the elephant in the room when it comes to Black America is reparations. And it seems as though the reparations movement has been taken over with by the wrong people. When I say the wrong people, I'm talking about Black Lives Matters and, groups that are anti-American, groups that want to punish people or punish, living white American souls that had nothing to do with slavery, had nothing to do with Jim Crow. Number one, white folks, white people here in America don't owe Blacks anything. I'm gonna say that again. White folks in America or white Americans do not own Blacks anything. This is why when you're living in America, depending on what state you live in, it's all about race, okay? You think a MAGA Republican is your enemy when you're living in Georgia, but your enemy is the Democratic Party, and that's facts because the Democratic Party is the party of slavery. And they will not let you go, okay? They rather put you on their team than to have you be a defector to the North or defector to the Union, just like, the Civil War. So, metaphorically speaking, in the sense of reparations, now, America pays out money, okay? California just shut down a bill called Proposition 1. And in that bill, Proposition 1, they were literally trying to earmark some bonds or earmark $65.4 billion to basically address the housing and the mental health and the mental illness situation here in California. And I'm telling you, $65.4 billion to homeless, okay? Where they get that from? Think about it. So the money's there. Congress will not bring to the House floor a situation where $95.5 billion to Israel, Taiwan, and Ukraine. Where are they getting those dollars from? They're not, nobody's paying out of their pocket. It might be used, our tax dollars, but nobody's coming out the pocket. So we got to understand in the terms of a debate, we got to balance the scales and be moderators and mediators to both sides because no one will be punished if payouts happen. Just say if Proposition 1 were to pass and the $95 billion or the $65 billion go to the homeless and the mental illness or mental health situation or condition in California, nobody's coming out the pocket. There's the white man, the white woman, the conservatives, the Republicans, or whatever you want to call it. Nobody's going to pay that out. So we need to stop talking or acting like reparations that white Americans got to come out their pocket and pay. No, this is a situation that, like Dr. King would say, America has a promissory note that they've defaulted on, and they're relying on time and inclusion to basically dead the conversation or this topic or discussion, because reparations was something that was put on the table. Abraham Lincoln, at the end of the Civil War, he basically put away $8 million in the Freedmen's Bank Bureau. And I have my mathematicians, they're working out the numbers. So we're talking about $8 million put away for the newly freed slave in 1865. And we're got the mathematicians out trying to figure out a number. What would that be with interest today? Think about that. That's money that's not coming out white's pockets. It's not black or white. It's not a racial thing, because if we want to move on as a perfect union, then we got to end racism. That means we cannot have whites and blacks warring against each other when we have a common enemy coming through our southern border. Think about that. Think about that. Let's have this conversation. And as I have this conversation and the gardener decides to come to the side with the blower, we're going to continue the discussion. But this is a conversation that we got to have. Okay, we got to have this conversation. There's no way we can actually continue on as a people without having a realistic situation. Now, I don't want to go outside and tell him to stop doing his job, but it's kind of weird that he came over. So we know that we're fighting an enemy, and it's an enemy that we can't see. And it's an enemy that's trying his best to stop us or to block us from having this conversation, because a house divided cannot stand. So just imagine if we as Americans got on the same sheet of music as Americans, not whites versus blacks. And it seems like that's all it is, but you got the Latino population, you got the Asians, you got the Jewish community. Think about the Jewish community in Hollywood. They just had the Grammys. Think about the Jewish people that have to sit there or go to the Grammys and understand that the protesters, the people that's on the Palestinian side, their people are being genocided, and the Jews are sitting back there celebrating and having these conversations in Hollywood. And did you not know that the Jewish people that came from the Jewish Holocaust, they got their reparations, and they were literally in a position to fund and create Hollywood? Okay, and then they changed their names to American names to basically classify themselves as whites. Okay, they basically just change, classified as white. So think about it. You got a large Jewish community, a Jewish faction in the 1940s came over from the Holocaust with reparations. They were basically cutting big checks, and they assimilated and changed their names as whites. Okay, because George Burns is George Horowitz. Winona Ryder is Winona, a Jewish name. So they were able to assimilate as whites. So this is how they was able to become who they are. And now look how the Jewish community here in America supports Israel and supports the genocide of Palestinians in Gaza with the war, with the Hamas and Israel war. You see how the Democratic Party, who pretty much owns and runs Hollywood and owns mass media, but you see how Jimmy Kimmel could get up there and, host the Oscars while a whole group of people is being genocided, but it was their people allegedly being genocided by Hitler. So we really got to understand what we're dealing with. So God's people show not perish due to the lack of knowledge, and God loves everybody. God is not a respecter of persons by no stretch of the imagination. So this is why we got to seal the deal. So reparations. We're going to be having these conversations and these topics and these debates. Okay, I'm on the side for reparations. And if you are against it, please bring the kitchen sink, because we got to have this conversation. We're going to work it out. We're going to communicate, because if you look at in the past times when you have, the intellectuals, this is what we're doing. We're having an intellectual conversation. And from an intellectual perspective, let's go ahead and conversate. The pros and cons. You could be for reparations. You could be against reparations. It's okay. But we got to have these conversations, because they're trying to keep us, just distracted, so we can't have these conversations. And we have to have these conversations, because We have to dead the past. We have to dead America's wicked systemic past before we can move on. And metaphorically speaking, okay, if you look at the Bible, I'm a Christian, but if you look at the Bible, Jesus spoke in parables because he was talking to the masses. He spoke to the masses. So when you're speaking to the masses, you got to use parables to understand. Okay, now to speak from a parable perspective, and I thank you for your comment, I'll get to it. Hopefully you stick around for the answer. Think of a marriage. Think about you being married to your spouse, and you're not the one that's cheating. You're not the one that's being abusive. You're not the one that's being disrespectful. But from a woman's perspective, you were kept barefoot and pregnant for the first 10 years of your life. Nothing that you did wrong. You signed up for it. You fell in love and you believe that this is the man of your dreams and he's going to treat you like the beautiful queen that you are. So in 10 years, you have 5 children. And then those 10 years, you're being a mother, a homemaker. Okay. But in the process, your husband is going through college. You're doing his homework. He's going through, he's getting his master's degree. Okay, now he's got his doctoral license. He got his PhDs. Now he's a practicing a doctor, and you're supporting him the whole time. And in a 20-year span, you guys have accumulated wealth as a family. You were the homemaker, and I'm speaking from a parable perspective to women that you did everything that you needed to do. You were a good spouse. You did not cheat on your husband. You raised the children. Everybody's doing good. Now your children are starting to go to college, and your husband does not love you. But your whole life was predicated on helping your husband grow to be the man that he is. But you're not benefiting from him. And then you find out that he has children by another woman. He's been living a double life. And then you call him out on it and he slaps you. And when he slaps you, he knocks a tooth out of your mouth. You got a black eye. And then he tells you, you my wife, you're going to always be my wife and you ain't going nowhere. And I'm about to go with my other wife. You got to just sit there and take it. It's going to come a matter of time where you, as a abused woman who dedicated your entire life for the uplifting of your family, you're going to file for divorce. You're going to file for divorce. And over that 20-year time period, do you deserve, think about it, some alimony? So what I'm saying is, look at that marriage from a culturalistic perspective, because history says it, in America, the black race in modern history was forced to be connected and married to democracy. Think about it. Okay, if you didn't know, America is a republic, to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God. And it will never be a one nation under God, to the republic for which it stands, until the black race divorces itself as a culture, as a group, and declare their freedom and separate from what we call democracy. And that comes with compensation. That comes with cash payouts. That comes with alimony. And look, the black man, we don't want no smoke with nobody. We'll be willing to share our monies with all the races, okay? Because we're not no haters. So I'm saying is, I'm challenging you. I'm challenging you. So I dare you to share this. I dare you to get this connected with other people. And I dare you to connect me with individuals who oppose reparations so we can have a debate about it, a healthy debate. Let's just have a conversation, because in the court of law, you have a prosecutor, you have a defense, and you have a judge. And the judge is the moderator to have these conversations. So we have to have this conversation, because on the State of the Union this past week, the black race as a whole, we submitted our divorce papers to democracy. Okay. And we're looking for our divorce to be final on November 5th of 2024. Okay. Now, if you've been married to a situation your entire lifetime, okay, and it stopped you from doing what you wanted to do the way that you wanted to do it, because if you didn't know, Black Americans were forced to vote Democratic ever since the Civil War, and they signed a deal in 1964 when the Democratic vice president became president at the time. Lyndon B. Johnson summons the Negro leaders and basically said, if we give you guys voting rights, you guys are only to vote Democratic. And if you don't vote Democratic, we're going to publicly shame you. We're going to disrespect you. We're going to do all of these bad things to you. And this is what we're dealing with right now. So we're declaring our freedom. I'm declaring my freedom and my separation from democracy, not saying I'm going to run to a Republican, because don't no white person on this planet owe me or my community or my entire race anything the federal government does. So when we're dealing with the federal government, these are conversations that we got to have. So let me see here. Reparations are due, over, and deserved, and I appreciate that. But I would love somebody to have this conversation that's actually on the other side. Because once we really sit down and have a conversation, then we'll really know and understand the truth. And the truth of it all is that God's people shall not perish due to the lack of knowledge. And please, like I said, I put episode 1. We're going to keep on having this conversation and open discussion. So if you have not subscribed, okay, put your notifications on, because I really want to have this open discussion and this debate, because we're not with Black Lives Matters. We're not with any Black nationalist group. We're just seeking a divorce from a political system that has been so rude and disrespectful to us our entire lifetimes. And we finally realized that it is not for us. It's totally against us. Because if you look at the root cause, a tree, fruit, if you plant a seed, that seed is not, if it's citrus, it's going to be citrus. It's not going to turn into fiber. It just doesn't happen that way. So if the root is wicked, then the entire tree is wicked, and the fruit that it bears is wicked. So we need to move on as a people and really understand what's going on, because, like I said, God's people shall not perish due to lack of knowledge. So don't be scared. Let's have this conversation. And anytime that you see me post these open discussions, these conversations, and if we can get, a group that subscribes, I will be very consistent, and we can have these conversations. Because if you are with it or if you are against it, please put it in the comments. Let's have this conversation, because we are seeking a divorce, and we've been married to democracy for 60 years, and we're seeking a divorce. And when you get a divorce, that comes with some compensation. That compensation is alimony. But like I said, us as a people, we'll be willing to share the wealth with everybody. We'll cut a deal, because if the state of California could somehow earmark $65 million, $65.4 billion to help a homeless situation, if on the federal level they're debating $95 billion to go to Ukraine, Taiwan, and Israel, okay, then we're not paying that out of our pocket. The white people are not paying that out of their pocket. They don't owe blacks anything, but somehow we can figure that out. But we have to end this horrific movie that we're living, and we have to get this divorce. So what I'm saying is, we have officially submitted our divorce papers to democracy, okay? Because the State of the Union, that was terrible. We're not running to no Republican. We want to be free and independent. We want to be single, okay? We don't want to be a Republican. We don't want to be a Democrat. We want to be free and liberated to vote for who we want to vote for, write in who we want to write in, without a particular party feeling like they own us because of the terrible condition that our so-called spouse, metaphorically, has been treating the black race since 1964. So we got 60 years of evidence of a failed experiment. So we have officially submitted our divorce papers, and we are looking to seek and finalize this divorce from democracy to be final November 5th of 2024, because blacks, we're not Republicans, we're not Democrats. You know, we're basically the glue that brings them all together, and we need to separate ourselves from our common enemy, and our common enemy is democracy. Because when President Joe Biden goes on record and said this is the biggest threat to their democracy since the Civil War, okay, yes, the biggest threat that you guys are going to lose your good economic, and at that time it's the slave, and this time it's the African Americans, the LGBTQ car, and anything that they want to call it. But with that being said, man, listen, God bless you. Let's continue to have these conversations respectfully. You know, keep it in the comments. You know, I will, in any comment you put in there, I will, you know, put it publicly. Not afraid to have these talks and these discussions. So with that being said, it's your man, Bushan Glover. Hit those likes, notifications, and subscribe, because this is episode 1, and we're going to continue to talk about reparations, the pros and cons from both sides, so we can come somehow and meet in the middle. Because you see this, a house divided can't stand, but if we get on one sheet of music, everybody wins, because democracy is ruled by the devil, steal, kill, and destroy. We embrace theocracy, as ruled by God. And this nation, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. That's what it means. That's the Constitution. We got our documents, and we are submitting a divorce from democracy, because this system is terrible. And you got to get in, and like I said, and compensate. So with that being said, this is your man, Bushan Glover. Till next time. This is an open discussion on reparations, and you have just tuned into A Better Black America TV on YouTube. Peace out.